Pécs is a settlement of more than 2,000 years. Historical times have left their traces for us to see. The city is built on the several thousand-year-old cultures that are still present, especially in the surroundings of the Episcopal Palace. The living monuments of the different cultures are the region's Mediterranean character, and local people's respect for the past and efforts to build the future make this city one of the most important settlements in Hungarian history. Pécs, Funkirchen in German, lies at the southern foot of the Meček Hills, which runs east to west, and is situated in the southern part of Hungary. The city's southern exposure has been uniquely influential on its development throughout history. The hills deflected the cold currents of air coming from the north. The Mediterranean climate favored the growing of grapes and fruits. Even tropical fruits like figs and pomegranates are not uncommon here. Organized life first emerged on Jakob Hill, which was easy to defend in the Bronze and Early Iron Age. The tumulus builders established a hilltop settlement fortified with huge earthworks. Pannonians and Illyrians founded a settlement on the slopes of Meček 2,500 years ago. These were conquered by Romans around the time Christ was born. The Roman town was a loose settlement extending over a large part of the southern slopes of Meček, but without military importance. Pécs, named Sopiane by the Romans, became a major settlement with the conquest and was the chief town of the Valeria province formed at that time. The town center developed along the busy trade route running east to west. Today's St. Stephen's Square, the Cathedral Square, and its surroundings used to be a burial area for pagan Romans and early Christians. In the course of construction works, hundreds of tombs, sepulchre monuments, and temples have been discovered. Early Christian sepulchre monuments can still be seen today, just like the carved sarcophagus in the lower sepulchral chamber on Sheta Square. Walls are decorated with frescoes depicting scenes from the Bible, Daniel with the lions, Adam and Eve in paradise, all of which are outstanding relics of this period. The vicinity of the cathedral used to be a burial area in Roman times, with tombs, sepulchral chambers, and chapels. The most renowned amongst them is the Peter Paul sepulchral chamber, which hides a Madonna portrait in the crypt. The chamber, named Korsos, pitcher in English, after its central motif, is presented in an original way and is visited by thousands of people every year. The trefoiled Cella Tricora and the seven-foiled Cella Sepulchra belong to a group of monuments that were explored 200 years ago. Inhabitants of the capital of the Roman province, Valeria, were swept away by migration. In the surroundings, from every piece of soil under your feet, in caves and in squares, hundreds of Roman tombs have been unearthed. St. Stephen designated the site of the ancient Roman and Christian churchyard, the Frankminster, as center of one of his episcopacies to be founded. Construction of the Roman cathedral started after the fire of 1064. The monumental construction work was conducted by Lombard and local craftsmen. The stone carvings of exceptional beauty and other sculptural elements were revealed during restoration in this last century. Among them were reliefs along the underground entrance to the crypt, like the Samson story where the biblical hero tears up trees by the roots, and the medieval folk altar with its carved stones. The excellent sculptural products set an example in Hungary. The stone carving school has been called the Pécs School ever since. The bishops of Pécs were among the most cultured church leaders of their time, and they often held important state offices. They patronized the arts and sciences. The most eminent amongst them were Janus Pannonius, the Resonance poet. The prelates, who had received classical education, contributed to the development of the town by founding a library and with important buildings. In 1543, Pécs was seized by the Turks, whose occupation lasted 143 years. During this time, the town experienced a considerable change. It took on an Oriental character. Since Pécs did not have any strategic significance, it was a supply area for the permanent and distant front lines. Turks moved into the medieval buildings, and Hungarians were compelled to stay outside the walls. Churches were transformed into mosques. The Turks also constructed important buildings, including several jamis, like the one outside the walls, the Yakov Ali Hassan Gosha's Jami. Baths were part of the jamis. We know of 3 Turkish baths. One of them, Mehmet Pasha's bath, can be still seen in its ruins. Standing in the heart of the city, Gazi Kashim Pasha's Jami is the biggest Turkish mosque in Hungary. In previous decades, it was restored to its original form and a modern section was added. The Jami is a Roman Catholic church today. Turkish people also built houses, public roads, running wells, and sepulchral monuments. The Holy Idris Baba's Türbe, which is a sepulchral monument, has remained almost entirely undamaged for us to see. In the fight for liberation against the Turks, Pécs was almost completely destroyed, and rebuilding could not be started until after 1711. Following a short period of fiscal administration, the town fell back under episcopal rule, and after 80 years of struggle, it was raised to royal free status by Queen Mary Teresa. Only after that could true urban development begin. The Baroque era was characterized by sparing construction. Only ecclesiastic buildings, churches, monasteries, and small palaces emerged from the gray backdrop of the town. Among the most prominent buildings of the Baroque area, we find the collegiate archives, the prebendal houses among the cathedral and bourgeoisie houses along the main street. After having been raised to royal free status, the town's image changed considerably due to widespread building operations at that time. Although the foundation of the walled episcopal palace goes back to medieval times, it was significantly rebuilt on several occasions in later periods. In the impressive Neo-Renaissance stair hall of today's palace, and in the Baroque reception room of the Episcopal Suite, we can see those large Flemish Baroque tapestries that Maria Theresa endowed to her favorite bishop, György Klimo. The cathedral was slightly damaged when the Turks were driven out and needed reparation. In later periods, it was thoroughly rebuilt several times. The first followed the instructions of Mihai Polak, one of the greatest Hungarian architects, and later, due to static problems, the church was practically rebuilt from its foundations, leaving only the four towers standing. On the southern facade, statues of the 12 apostles were placed. The group of figures above the southern gate presents Hungarian saints paying homage to the Blessed Virgin Mary, Our Lady. The new interior preserves the pre-construction spatial effects as well as medieval qualities. Along the underground entrance to the crypt, we can see reproductions of the most beautiful carvings of the medieval Roman church made by Yuri Zala. The 16th century Pastorphorium, one of the most beautiful objects of the Hungarian Renaissance, can be seen in the Corpus Christi Chapel. Pécs used to be a town with two centers. The civic center was close to the ecclesiastical center. In the early 1800s, the magnificent Episcopal, today the University Library, and many other public and private buildings were conceived in the spirit of classicism. The population of the city significantly increased. In this period, houses were built in the spirit of Romanticism. Eclectic constructions brought an important change to the city, and many nice buildings with a great past were demolished to raise large and ostentatious houses in their places. Art Nouveau in Pécs is represented by the Central Postal Office building. After World War I, slow development started with the former University of Bratislava moving to Pécs. After several centuries, it has been a university town again. Between the wars, Pécs gave the world many outstanding architects, like Marcel Breuer, Alfred Forbat, and Farkas Molnar. Buildings of this period have a strong Bauhaus character, which is not by chance, since these architects were founding members of the Bauhaus. Pécs is a settlement of more than 2,000 years. Historical times have left their traces for us to see. The city is built on those several thousand-year-old cultures that are still present, especially in the surroundings of the Episcopal Palace. The living monuments of different cultures are the region's Mediterranean character and local people's respect for the past and efforts to build the future make this city one of the most important settlements in Hungarian history.